almost burned my house down tonight. Still shaking, my eyes still hurt, still smell the smells. What happened? Well, earlier I took advice from a friend and I got some boiled linseed oil to put on the necks of a couple of my guitars. It did a wonderful job on the guitars, by the way. It was already boiled. I didn't boil it. That's not how the fire started. It comes that way. When I picked up the can to take it back out into the garage, I dropped it on the floor and it spilled probably about a quarter cup of the oil. Luckily, the floor wasn't carpeted. I ran and grabbed a roll of paper towels and used pretty much the whole roll to clean up the mess, and wiped out the can, took the can out to the garage and threw the paper towels away. And after I stuffed those towels in the trash can, I washed my hands and went about my business. That was a little before noon today. And about 10:30 tonight, I went to throw something else away. I pulled out the little slider drawer where the trash cans are, and I was immediately overwhelmed by this huge cloud of billowing smoke that just kept pouring out from under the countertops. Yanked the trash can out of there and ran outside and found the contents inside that can to be burning. Actually burning. Holy crap. Okay. So much awful smoke just hanging out. By the way, that stuff's now outside in a container of water and detergent soaking. I'm actually kind of mad at myself because I know that at some point in the recent past, I learned that this could happen, and I guess I just kind of forgot. In fact, I learned it from a woodworking video on a channel called Bourbon Moth from a couple of years ago. I'll link that in the description. They go into a deep dive with a whole experiment in several different scenarios to see how this can happen. How it happens is something called an exothermic reaction. Linseed oil and some other oils, but mainly boiled linseed oil, the #1 culprit, oxidizes when it's exposed to air, and that causes a lot of heat. It can heat up to over 400 degrees Fahrenheit, just like 200 something Celsius. And in the presence of a fuel source like oil-soaked rags and trash, they can ignite and start a fire. I made it worse by having that trash can in a poorly ventilated area, under the countertop in that little slider cabinet thing. Where I lucked out was I decided I was going to have a yogurt before I went to bed, and I discovered this when I went to throw away the lid to the yogurt. Otherwise, I'd have been in bed, and the kids are already in bed. It would have taken until the smoke billowed out and got to the smoke detector before I knew anything was going on, and who knows what would have built up by then. And by the way, there are two proper ways to dispose of a linseed oil rag. You either take it outside, away from everything, onto a non-flammable surface, preferably concrete, lay it completely flat and wait for it to dry out entirely, or submerge them in a container full of water and detergent to break up the oil. This reminded me to check my kitchen fire extinguisher, which I didn't end up using this time around, to see if it had expired, and I found there's not an expiry date on it, but the thing's well over a decade old, so I'll be making a run to replace that one and the one in my garage, which also shows charged, but I'm not going to trust it. Feeling kind of lucky because things happen to me and somehow I tend to always land on my feet through dumb muck. Anyway, so there's your random tip for the night. Don't stuff a bunch of linseed oil soaked rags in your trash can and go to bed. Come on, baby, light my